The first thing the council saw was blood. Not the slow, ceremonial blood of ritual hunts or the dignified spill of a warrior's final duel, but chaos. Heat signatures spiking, movement patterns breaking formation, a battlefield dissolving into panic. The feed came from a remote frontier world catalogued as V417, an unremarkable jungle planet known only for its aggressive wildlife and unstable atmospheric currents. No intelligent life had ever been recorded there. Until now. Enhance the lower quadrant, commanded High Arbiter Crawl, his voice a low growl that reverberated through the chamber. The hollow display sharpened. The jungle canopy peeled back in spectral layers, revealing a clearing scorched by plasma fire. Bodies, massive, scaled predators, lay strewn across the ground, their armored hides cracked open by weapons not native to the ecosystem. And at the center of it all, a human. She was smaller than the council expected. Fragile, by most standards. Her suit was torn at the shoulder, exposing skin slick with blood. One arm hung limp, likely shattered. Her breathing was ragged, visible even through the distortion of the feed. Yet she stood, not alone. Behind her, tucked into the roots of a massive tree, were three creatures, juveniles of the dominant predator species on V417.
Cubs.
Their hides shimmered with iridescent scales, their eyes wide with fear. They should have been prey. Instead, they were being protected. Crawl leaned forward. Replay the moment of engagement. The feed rewound. It had begun 12 minutes earlier. A hunting party, 6 adult predators, each the size of a ground transport, had cornered the cubs near the riverbank. The young ones had strayed too far from their den. Their distress calls echoed through the jungle, drawing not their mother, but something else. The human had entered the frame at a full sprint. No hesitation. No assessment. Just movement. She carried a compact rifle, military grade, though outdated by council standards. Her targeting was precise, almost instinctual. The first predator fell before it even registered her presence, a clean shot through the cranial ridge. The second lunged. She didn't retreat. She met it head-on. The footage slowed as the massive creature swiped at her. She ducked beneath the blow, sliding through mud and blood, and drove a plasma blade into the softer underbelly of the beast. It roared, collapsing inches from her. "Reckless," muttered one of the counselors. "Effective," Crawl corrected. The remaining predators circled, adapting. They were not mindless beasts, they learned. Coordinated. One fainted, drawing her fire, while another flanked from the rear. The human saw it. Too late. The creature's jaws closed around her shoulder. The feed flickered as her vitals spiked. She screamed, but even that sound was cut short as she slammed the butt of her rifle into the creature's eye, forcing it to release her. She staggered. And then she moved between the cubs and the predators. A line drawn in blood. "Pause," Crawl ordered. The chamber fell silent. "Why?" asked Counselor Vesh, her elongated form coiling in confusion. "The juveniles are not her species. Not her kin. Not even a known ally. There is no logical incentive." Crawl's eyes narrowed. "Continue." The final phase of the encounter was brutal. Outnumbered. Injured. Outmatched. The human should have died. But she didn't. Every movement became deliberate. Economical. She conserved energy, forcing the predators to come to her. Each attack was met with calculated resistance. Never more than necessary. Never less. She used the terrain. Drew them into narrow spaces between roots. Forced them to approach one at a time. Still, they wore her down. A claw tore through her thigh. Another strike knocked her weapon from her grip. She fell to one knee, blood pooling beneath her. The largest predator advanced. Alpha. Its scales were darker, its movements slower but more deliberate. It knew she was weakening. It could smell it. The cubs whimpered behind her. The human glanced back. Just once. And in that moment, something changed. Her posture shifted. Her breathing steadied. She rose. Not with strength, but with resolve. The alpha lunged. She didn't dodge. Instead, she stepped forward. The impact was catastrophic. The creature's mass drove her into the ground, jaws snapping inches from her face. Her broken arm hung useless, but her remaining hand reached, grasping something at her belt. A charge. Primitive. Unrefined. But powerful. She activated it. The explosion tore through the clearing. When the smoke cleared, the alpha lay still.
So did she.
Is she dead? Vesh asked. Negative, replied the observer AI. Minimal vital signs detected. The feed resumed in real time. The jungle had grown quiet. The surviving predators had fled. Only the cubs remained, huddled behind the human's motionless form. Minutes passed. Then movement. A shadow descended from above. A shuttle. Sleek. Black. Bearing no insignia. It hovered silently before landing at the edge of the clearing. Krawl's eyes widened slightly. Identify that craft. The AI hesitated. No match in Council database. The ramp lowered. Figures emerged. Humans. Armed. Organized. Efficient. They moved quickly to the fallen woman, scanning her injuries, stabilizing her with practiced precision. One of them, taller, older, knelt beside her, removing his helmet. His expression hardened as he took in the scene. Damn it, Mara, he whispered. Krawl leaned forward.
Mara.
That is her designation. Likely her name, the AI confirmed. The man activated a communicator. Command, this is Captain Reyes. We've got Mara. She's alive, but barely. Medivac Priority 1. A pause. And the mission? A voice crackled back. Reyes glanced at the cubs. They stared at him, unafraid. He exhaled slowly. Mission parameters changed. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Changed? Vesh hissed. On what authority? Krawl raised a hand, silencing the room. Continue playback. Reyes stood, addressing his team. We're not leaving them. One of the soldiers hesitated. Sir, those things are top-tier predators. We don't even know if they'll... They didn't attack her, Reyes interrupted. And she didn't hesitate to protect them. That doesn't make them safe. No, Reyes agreed. But it makes them something else. He looked back at Mara, her breathing shallow but steady. She saw something worth dying for. I trust her judgment. The soldiers exchanged glances. Then one by one they nodded. They approached the cubs cautiously. No aggression. No fear. Just curiosity. One of the cubs stepped forward, nudging Mara's arm with its snout. Reyes swallowed. Get them on the shuttle. Pause, Krawl said again. The chamber was silent. These humans, he began slowly, have demonstrated behavior inconsistent with known predator logic. Vesh coiled tighter. They protect non-kin. They alter mission objectives based on emotional response. They risk valuable assets for what? Compassion? Krawl considered the word. Perhaps, he said. Or perhaps something more dangerous. Days passed. The council monitored every transmission, every movement of the unidentified human vessel. They learned quickly. The humans were part of an exploratory fleet, small but advanced. Not a dominant power. Not yet. Mara survived. Barely. Her recovery was slow, her body pushed to its limits. But she endured. And the cubs? They stayed. Not as captives, as companions. The humans studied them, learned their behaviors, adapted to their presence. In return, the cubs followed them, protected them, integrated into their routines. A bond formed, unprecedented. Final report, the AI announced. The chamber darkened as the last transmission played. Mara stood at the observation deck, her arm now replaced with a mechanical prosthetic. Scars traced her skin, but her posture was steady. Reyes joined her. "They're growing fast," he said, watching the cubs, now larger, stronger, move through the ship with surprising grace. Mara smiled faintly. "They're not just predators." "No," Reyes agreed. "They're not." She looked out at the stars. "Neither are we." The feed ended. Silence. Then, Crawl rose. "The Predator Council has observed countless species," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We have cataloged their strengths, their weaknesses, their patterns."
He paused.
"But this is new." Vesh tilted her head. "What do you propose?" Crawl's gaze hardened. "We do not classify humanity as prey." A ripple moved through the council. "Nor as predator," he continued. "Then what?" Vesh demanded. Crawl's answer was simple. Something else. He turned to the stars displayed above them. Something unpredictable. The council did not adjourn. Not after what they had seen. The chamber remained dim, lit only by the slow rotation of star systems projected in the void above. The silence that followed High Arbiter Crawl's declaration was not uncertainty. It was calculation. Because if humanity was not prey, and not predator, then it was something the Council had never prepared for. "Expand surveillance," Crawl ordered at last. Streams of data erupted across the chamber, tracking the human vessel as it slipped through uncharted sectors. Its path was erratic, nonlinear, not the efficient route of a conquering force. It wandered, explored,
chose.
"That is not strategic movement," one counselor observed. "No," Crawl replied quietly. "It is deliberate freedom. The return of the mother." It happened 32 standard cycles later. Without warning, the human vessel had entered a dense asteroid belt, using its chaotic structure as cover while performing long-range scans. The cubs, no longer small, moved with confidence now, their bodies sleek, their instincts sharpened but tempered. They had learned restraint from her. Mara stood in the cargo bay when the alarms began. A low, guttural vibration filled the ship, not mechanical, but biological, ancient,
deep.
It resonated in the bones more than the years. The cubs froze. Then, all at once, they ran. Not away. Toward the source. Mara didn't hesitate. "Open the external bay," she ordered. Rhea's voice crackled through comms. "Wait. We don't know what's out there." "I do," she said, already moving. And somehow,
she did.
The bay doors opened to darkness. And then, it emerged. Massive.
Scarred.
Majestic. The mother. Larger than anything the Council had recorded from V-417. Her scales bore the marks of countless battles. One eye was clouded, her movements heavy, but her presence
dominant.
Absolute. The cubs rushed forward, their calls echoing in the vacuum-adapted chamber as the ship's atmosphere held just long enough. The mother lowered her head, not in submission, but recognition. "Impossible," Vesh whispered in the council chamber as the live feed streamed. "Parental retrieval behavior?" Another counselor suggested. Crawl said nothing. He was watching Mara. Mara stepped forward slowly, her prosthetic arm humming softly with each movement. Every instinct in her body screamed danger. Every survival metric said, "Do not approach." But she ignored them, because she remembered. The way the cubs had cried. The way they had trusted her. The way they had chosen not to bite when they could have. She stopped just a few meters from the massive predator.
Close enough to die.
Easily. The mother inhaled. A long, deep breath. Scenting. Analyzing. Judging. Her massive head lowered further until it was level with Mara. The cubs circled between them, restless, but not afraid. And then, Mara did something no council species had ever recorded. She reached out, slowly,
Carefully.
and placed her hand against the predator's snout. The chamber erupted. Madness. Suicidal behavior. This is not dominance, this is silence. Crawl roared. The mother did not attack. She did not recoil. She stilled. Her breath slowed. And in that moment, something ancient passed between them. Not language. Not instinct. Understanding. Mara exhaled. A shaky, human breath. You came back for them, she whispered. The predator's eye, its one clear eye, remained fixed on her. And then it shifted. Not to Mara, but to the ship behind her. To the humans. To the place where her cubs had lived. Reyes stepped into view, weapon lowered. The crew stood behind him, tense, ready but not aggressive. Not hunters. Not prey. Something else. The mother stepped forward. The ship trembled under her weight. The cubs moved to her side, pressing against her in a reunion that needed no translation. Mara stepped back, giving space. Not claiming. Not owning. Just allowing. Minutes passed. Then slowly the mother turned. The cubs hesitated. They looked back. At Mara. At the ship. At the beings who had fed them, healed them, protected them. One of them stepped forward again. Pressed its head gently against Mara's side. A gesture. A choice. Crawl leaned forward. This is the moment, he said softly. The mother watched. Waiting. Not commanding. Not forcing. Waiting. The cub hesitated. Then turned. And walked back to her. The others followed. But not before each one paused. Just for a moment before Mara.
Acknowledging.
Remembering. And then they were gone. Into the void. Into the wild. Where they belonged.
The bay doors closed.
Silence filled the ship. Mara stood still, her hand trembling slightly. Reyes approached her. You okay? She nodded, though her voice was quiet. Yeah. A pause. They chose to go back. Reyes smiled faintly.
Yeah.
Another pause. But they also chose to stay when they could have left. Mara looked at him. That matters. The council's verdict. The feed ended. The chamber was silent once more. But this time, it was different. They did not imprint, Vesh said slowly. They did not dominate. They did not enslave. No, another counselor agreed. They all coexisted. Crawl rose. Slowly. Deliberately. For cycles, we have to find the galaxy by two truths, he said. Predators and prey. He looked around the chamber. At the top of the chain and beneath it. He gestured to the empty projection space where Mara had stood. But humanity.
He paused.
They do not follow the chain. Vesh narrowed her eyes. Then where do they stand? Crawl's answer came without hesitation. Outside it. A ripple of unease spread through the council. That is not possible, one counselor argued. All life must fall within the hierarchy. Must it? Crawl countered. They risk themselves for non-kin. They alter outcomes based on choice, not instinct. They create bonds where none should exist. He stepped forward, his voice lowering. And most dangerously, they inspire the same in others. The chamber stilled, because that was the true threat. If this behavior spreads, Vesh began. It will, Crawl interrupted. because it is not forced. It is chosen. He turned back to the stars. To classify them as prey would be fatal. To classify them as predators would be incorrect. He exhaled slowly. So, we will not classify them at all. The final decree echoed through the chamber. Humanity is hereby designated. Krall's voice hardened. A catalyst species. Epilogue. The first change. Months later, on a distant world under council observation, a minor event was recorded. A small predator species, previously known for devouring its young under resource strain, hesitated. Just once. When food was scarce. When survival demanded sacrifice. It hesitated.
And chose not to.
No one could explain why. Not scientifically. Not logically. But far away, drifting between stars, a human woman stood at the edge of a viewing deck, her mechanical hand resting lightly against the glass. She watched the void. Quiet. Steady.
Alive.